In the midst of the upper Midwest, the Fargo Theatre is a symbol of the past. A past representing the area's heritage in entertainment and the arts. Standing at the edge of Broadway, the Fargo Theatre is a gateway to what Fargo's downtown used to be. Prohibition, gangsters, and flappers bring up images of a time when Americans were battling with excessive wealth and excessive poverty. Amidst these turbulent times, two Minneapolis theater operators, Finkelstein and Rubin, decided Fargo would be the next place to build one of their lavish theater houses. Papers of the times described the Fargo as the showplace of North Dakota. From the architectural splendor to the most modern equipment of its time, the Fargo Theatre was like none other in the F&R chain.
The Fargo was the big A house, as it was called. A lot of the first-run big shows came here. All the major stars of the day performed here. We have pictures of Babe Ruth, we have Tom Mix, Boris Karloff, although that's a little later. All the people, Jack Benny, that began in that format would have come through here at some point or other, probably. They were on one of the big circuits.
But vaudeville wasn't the only source of entertainment here. Silent films were a fresh and exciting trend that created new stars.
And because the screens were large, because the music was so overwhelming, you know, it moved in, it covered everything else. You didn't have to stop for dialogue, either to hear it or to know what was being said. You communicated visually. It made these performers of that era, people like Chaplin, Keaton, Harold Lloyd, Rudolph Valentino, Lillian Gish, all of those. It made them larger-than-life characters, dealing with human emotions in a broad and exciting manner. And of course, the theater pipe organ, in addition to being a very effective and meaningful instrument, was, at least to one extent, devised to solve the problem of having to hire a whole orchestra. You know, one person could do it all. Could provide the music and the sound effects and the sense. And in a way, that's very exciting, because you then get the performance that's on screen, but you also get an artist while the movie is performing.
In the 1930s, the Fargo was making headlines again as it invested $40,000 into a major remodeling. The premier architect of the Upper Midwest, Jack Liebenberg, brought to the Fargo his masterful Art Deco designs with smooth, clean, flowing lines and geometric shapes.
As things changed, the Fargo was really the only unique house that remained up until the 50s, the way it was created in 1936.
I think it's a tribute to the Fargo that it can and does change with the times. I'm glad we can still go back with the Fargo, because the sensibility now, and I hope for all time, will be that original movie palace feel and look is the goal you want to go after. That's a restoration worth something.
Since the end of the silent movie era, the once mighty Wurlitzer theater pipe organ was dormant and had fallen into disrepair. A group of people who were concerned about the apparent demise of this piece of heritage proposed the restoration of what has become the centerpiece of the Fargo Theatre.
I was a student at NDSU back in the late 50s. I think it was about 58 or so. And I had a date with me, and we came to the Fargo Theatre to see a movie. And we sat in the exact spot where I was sitting, and I noticed a theater organ console sitting in the orchestra pit. And it had a black cloth over it, a dust cover. But the horseshoe cutout told me right away that it was a Wurlitzer theater organ.
I had seen some shrouded black shape or form in the orchestra pit as far back as the 60s. A little high school kid came down here, and I knew the organ was here, and I knew the manager, so I came and got to take a look at it. Later, when I moved to Fargo, I contacted Lance Johnson, and we arranged to get a chance to look at the organ and see what was wrong with it and how to make it play, and we did. We came in here on a Friday night, and by Saturday morning, the organ was playing, sort of.
And it involved taking the organ apart and cleaning all the contacts, because the contacts were so full of soot that they were insulating, so nothing would play. Well, then we came back to the manager and asked him if he wouldn't mind if we were to use the organ for movie prologues like they did back in the 1920s, and he said, "I don't care, go ahead." So at that point, we brought in the Red River chapter of the ATOS, American Theater Organ Society.
When Plitt Theaters elected to move out of Fargo, I guess is what you'd call it, they sold their interests here to St. Cloud Chain Sim Entertainment. But generally speaking, Cinema Entertainment is in the business of running commercial houses, multi-screen theaters and all of that, and they aren't interested in trying to make money with one great big building and a single screen because the economics just aren't there anymore in that way. So they came to the American Theater Organ Society and said, would you support this endeavor? Would you like to try and keep the place, because you need a place to keep the pipe organ? And the ATOS went forward with that and eventually formed a corporation that has now become the Fargo Theater Management Corporation, and it is finally on its own and has become a very viable community arts organization.
The organ was the reason we wanted to stay here, and we knew that if we did not open the Fargo Theater, we would have lost the organ and silent movie night, and it was something we simply just could not accept. And so the result is we still have the theater running. It has not been demolished. It's very, very successful, and the organ is still showcased every weekend.
Originally, Silent Movie Night, a project sponsored by the American Theater Organ Society, as it is today, was an attempt to raise amounts of money so that there was funding available to restore the pipe organ. There's an excitement there that's certainly not present in any other theater facility in the region. And so Silent Movie Night helped to fund step by step the process by which we have now arrived at having a community resource center.
In 1987, the Fargo Theater moved to restore the building to the Art Deco style originally conceived by Liebenberg.
By this time, the theater was in need of facelifting, I guess is a good word. Wallpaper was getting worn and soiled, carpets needed to be replaced, and a lot of things, quite frankly, had not been done in those last few years. And because of the awareness of historic buildings by the general public, the whole attitude has changed by 1987. And through the cooperation of the Reinecke Foundation, we were able to raise funds and bring the lobby back to a 1937 Art Deco look, very much like it was when they did it the first time.
In 1993, the Fargo Theater became an independent, nonprofit organization. Today, it is a showcase for the area, demonstrating that the past is what builds the future.
There is no one place that can do what the Fargo Theater can do. In fact, for some things, there's no place at all but the Fargo Theater to be able to do these materials.
We live in an area where I believe we have a very high level of culture. And with the three colleges and universities that we have, we are producing a citizenry that appreciates greater forms of film art.
Doesn't mean we stop now. We keep going. We're still running on 1926 rigging, and we need to get technically caught up without changing the ambience and the atmosphere and the feel of the Fargo, but we need to be able to do the 90s tech.
It's really unique, but it's not unique simply because it allows you to showcase the past, I think. It's unique because it's a pathway to the future. As to whatever whatever one wants to do, I think you can find a way to do it. The theater has weathered the storm since the 1920s, changing physically in its size, shape, and the designs of the material. And remember, it started out doing vaudeville, did silent films, accommodated radio broadcasts in the 1930s, stage shows. So there is truly a unique opportunity, not only to deal with the past, but to present the future.